Black CEO. Rejected at luxury wedding 15 minutes later she owns the venue. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. You can't stand here. The voice came sharp, wrapped in perfume and authority. Camilla Ward didn't whisper, she announced it, slicing through the music like a bow snapping on strings. All around the garden shimmered with white roses, white chairs, white linen catching late Sunday. A luxury wedding on the edge of Lake Verdant, where even the light seemed filtered for elegance. But not for her. Danielle Brooks stood near the fountain wearing a simple white dress, no lace, no glitter, just clean cotton and calm. Her skin glowed against the ivory world that refused to see her. Camilla tilted her head. Sorry, ma'am. Guests only beyond this point. Danielle's lips parted slightly. I'm here for the venue. Camilla's laugh was delicate, cruel. Of course you are. A few guests turned. Some smiled with pity, others with curiosity. Phones lifted discreet but not invisible. To them, she was out of place. To herself, she was home. Behind her violins played canon in D soft and perfect, like the soundtrack of entitlement. The bride, porcelain and flawless, posed for photos near the arch. Danielle's reflection glimmered faintly in the catering glass. For a second, it looked like two worlds layered on top of each other, one shining, one unseen. She adjusted her bag. Quiet, poised, no reaction. The way she'd learned to survive 1,000 polite rejections before. Camilla gestured to a server. Escort her out, please. Quickly. The young man hesitated. Danielle caught his eye, a flicker of shame crossed his face. He didn't move. Camilla frowned. Now. Danielle's voice was steady. Don't worry. I won't stay long. But her tone carried something weightier than defiance. A promise. The air thickened. The violin faltered for half a second, enough to feel it. Enough for whispers to start. Danielle turned her gaze toward the floral archway, the chandeliers swaying under the late gold light. Every corner of this place whispered her name. She had designed it, funded it, built it, and yet today she was being erased from it. She smiled, faint but certain, because she knew what was coming. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now, back to Danielle. The garden fell silent again except for the soft breeze and the quiet woman in white standing exactly where she belonged. 15 minutes earlier, that same garden had looked different. Not to the guests, to her. Danielle Brooks had arrived alone, stepping out of a plain silver sedan that blended with the catering trucks. No chauffeur, no badge of wealth. Just the kind of quiet entry that never alarms anyone except people who think silence means weakness. Her white dress wasn't fashion. It was memory. The same shade she'd worn the day she signed the contract that made the Crescent Garden hers. The venue had been a dying property, then bankrupt, overgrown, forgotten. She'd restored it, built it back, flower by flower, light by light. Now it bloomed for someone else's love story and against her own dignity. A server carrying a tray of champagne brushed past her and didn't say sorry. He didn't have to. The hierarchy was invisible but heavy. Danielle's eyes scanned the marble path, the polished signage, the stage where vows would soon echo. Everything perfect, everything hers. She stopped beside a rose trellis and pulled out her phone, checking the internal management app, the one her company used to monitor live events. Her initials glowed at the top. D. B. Owner Access. Online. The irony almost made her laugh. Camilla Ward's voice, the same woman who had just humiliated her, was listed as event manager contracted through Brooks Holdings. Danielle stared at that line for a moment. So that's how you treat your owner, she murmured. A small gust scattered petals across her feet. The garden was whispering, restless, like it knew what was coming. Her phone buzzed a message from Tasha, her executive assistant. Everything's ready if you want to observe anonymously. No one knows you're on site. Danielle typed back one word. Watching. She slipped the phone away, looked up at the white arch framed against the golden hour, and for a brief moment she remembered something older, a night in Georgia 20 years ago when she'd been told to leave a wedding because she didn't fit. The theme. That humiliation had built her empire. And today it was about to complete its circle. From the reception tent, laughter rose glassy and bright. the kind that sounds expensive. Camilla's voice cut through it. Staff, keep an eye on that woman in white. She's not on the list. Danielle smiled faintly. The list didn't matter. She'd written the deed. The sun lowered, spilling gold through the petals. Somewhere between the music and the murmurs, justice began to take root. Security come to the west lawn. Camilla's voice crackled through her headset, sharp enough to slice through the music. The bride laughed somewhere behind her, oblivious. The guests turned just enough to watch the scene unfold, not to help, only to witness. Danielle didn't move. The fountain behind her whispered with every ripple. She stood with her hands clasped loosely, the way a person does when she's seen this before. A man in a black vest approached Evan, mid-20s, polite but uncertain. He looked at Camilla, then at Danielle. "Ma'am, is there a problem?" "No," Danielle said softly. "Only perspective," Camilla snorted. "The problem is, she's trespassing. This is a private event. Escort her to the entrance, please." Evan hesitated. Danielle's tone was steady, almost kind. "Do you know who owns this property, Evan?" He blinked. The Brooks something group, I think." "Brooks Holdings," Danielle said. "Remember it." Camilla rolled her eyes. "Don't listen to her. I've seen this act before, people sneaking in for free champagne and photos." Her words carried bouncing off the marble paths. Guests chuckled under their breath. Someone whispered, "She really wore white to someone else's wedding." Danielle looked at the speaker. "White isn't ownership," she said calmly. "It's reflection." For a heartbeat, the chatter faltered. Even Evan looked unsure. But Camilla pressed on louder now, performing for the crowd. "Security's on the way," she announced. "We handle imposters fast here." That word imposter landed like a slap. Danielle's eyes hardened, not in anger, but in memory. She could still see the hotel lobby from years ago, a man behind the counter saying the same word as he canceled her booking. Back then, she'd walked away. Not this time. She lifted her chin, her voice low but carrying. "Every time a woman like me walks into a space like this, someone decides she doesn't belong. I've learned to stop asking for entry." Camilla folded her arms. "Good. Then leave." The guests laughed again, nervous laughter, unsure which side to pick. Danielle didn't blink. "No, I'll stay. I built this ground and I'll stand on it." Evan's radio crackled. "On our way." He glanced between them, torn. The music had faded into background noise. Even the birds seemed quieter. Camilla straightened her blazer. "When security arrives, they'll handle you. You can explain your little fantasy to them." Danielle looked past her toward the arch glowing in the late light, her creation, her signature in every curve. "You're right," she said softly. "They will handle something. Just not me." The first shadow of the approaching guards stretched across the grass. And for the first time, Camilla's confidence flickered. The security guards came in pairs, tall, uniformed, purposeful, their shoes pressed into the manicured grass with the quiet rhythm of authority. Guests shifted in their seats, pretending not to stare while staring anyway. The violinist stopped mid-note. Danielle didn't step back. She stood beneath the rose arch, the sunlight catching on her white dress, turning the fabric gold around the edges. She looked less like an intruder now and more like the center of a story no one yet understood. Camilla gestured sharply. "She's the one. Remove her." One guard nodded, hand hovering near Danielle's elbow, professional but dismissive. "Ma'am, we need you to come with us." Danielle's voice was soft. "Do you always remove the owner first?" The guard frowned. "Ma'am, never mind," she said, stepping slightly aside, not away. "I'm curious how you handle guests when no one's recording." Someone was recording now, of course. A young bridesmaid near the fountain had lifted her phone, her red nails glinting in the frame. The lens caught everything, the discomfort, the imbalance, the way Camilla's smirk stretched thinner each second. Camilla hissed under her breath. "Put that phone down." But the bridesmaid didn't. Neither did the two servers by the buffet or the old man sitting near the aisle whispering to his wife. The world had tilted. The crowd was no longer background. It was bearing witness. Danielle's heart beat steady, not fear focus. She'd spent 2 decades mastering the art of waiting for ignorance to reveal itself. It always did. "This doesn't have to be ugly," she told the guards. "Then leave quietly," one replied. "Quiet is the only way I leave," she said. "But not yet." She bent down, picked up the access card Camilla had thrown earlier. It was creased, the metallic print scratched, but it still gleamed faintly under the sunday. Danielle turned it in her hand, looking at the reflection of the security men in its surface. "Do you see this?" she asked, her tone even. "That logo on the corner, that's mine." Camilla scoffed. "Anyone can print a fake badge." Danielle smiled faintly. And anyone can expose a fake manager. The guards exchanged glances. Camilla's confidence cracked for a fraction of a second, but she kept her voice firm. Enough. Escort her out before she ruins the ceremony. Ruins the ceremony, the words echoed. Danielle's gaze swept the crowd faces, waiting curious, complicit. Then she exhaled slowly like someone choosing patience over fire. If I'm going to be removed, she said, I'd like everyone here to remember this moment. The bridesmaid's camera panned closer. Even the groom had stopped smiling for photos. Danielle turned slightly toward the setting Sunday. The light flared white across her face. Because when I walk out, she said, each word calm as a verdict, so does this place's integrity. And for the first time all evening, no one dared to breathe. A hush rippled through the wedding lawn, that strange silence that only follows arrogance. The guards froze, uncertain. The bride's laughter from across the garden faltered, drifting into the kind of quiet that feels like guilt. Danielle stood still, centered in the sunlight, her white dress now catching traces of rose petals scattered by the wind. Around her, judgment had paused to listen. Near the buffet, a young man holding a camera whispered, "This doesn't look right." His name was Liam Tran, freelance photographer hired for the event. He adjusted his lens, pressed record, and muttered under his breath, "If they touch her, this goes online." Camilla noticed. "Excuse me, no unauthorized filming." Liam didn't lower the camera. "Ma'am, you're removing a woman who hasn't done a thing." Camilla's cheeks flushed. "She's trespassing." "Then why's her badge the same as the ones we wear?" A few heads turned. Danielle said nothing, she didn't need to. The contrast spoke louder than any defense, the calm woman in white and the flustered planner losing control of her own event. At the back of the crowd, an older woman in a navy dress whispered to her husband, "I've seen her before. Wasn't she in that Forbes article?" He frowned, squinting. "Maybe. Something about hospitality." The murmurs began to spread like ripples in the pond. Doubt the one thing Camilla couldn't manage. She turned back to Danielle, voice trembling between fury and fear. "You can't just walk in here and act like you're someone important." Danielle met her gaze steady. "You mistook humility for invisibility. That's your mistake." Phones lifted again. Guests weren't whispering now. They were filming openly. The crowd had turned into an audience not for the wedding, but for the reckoning. The two security guards exchanged uncertain glances. One of them leaned toward Camilla. "Maybe we should verify first." "Verify," she snapped. "She doesn't belong here," Liam's voice came from behind his camera. "Then let's see what the system says." Danielle's lips curved slightly. "That's a good idea." She reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and tapped a single icon, the internal operations app. Her thumb hovered over a green button marked Site Control. "You might want to stop recording," Camilla barked at Liam. "Oh, I'm not recording for her," he said, keeping the lens steady. "I'm recording for history." The bride's mother stood now clutching her pearls, whispering to someone. "What's going on?" Danielle lifted her chin toward the arch, her voice smooth and unshaken. "What's going on," she said, "is accountability." The garden, once filled with laughter and string music, now pulsed with tension, the kind that meant something irreversible had already begun. Camilla's face hardened, the edges of her confidence sharpening into cruelty. "You've had your little moment," she said. "Now you leave or I'll make the call myself." Danielle didn't answer. The sunlight hit her shoulders, glowing against the simple white fabric like armor. The crowd murmured again. Guests who minutes ago had been laughing over champagne now shifted in discomfort. One man whispered, "Why is she being thrown out? She's not even shouting." Another woman clutched her clutch tighter, torn between manners and morality. The two security guards waited, unsure whose authority held weight now. The taller one finally spoke. "Ma'am, we can walk you out quietly. It's better that way." Danielle's tone stayed level. Better for who? Camilla's smile turned sharp. For everyone watching. "You're making a scene." "No," Danielle said softly, "I'm in one. You're the director." A ripple of laughter, nervous, startled, spread through the guests. Camilla's jaw tightened. "Enough," she snapped. "This event is private property." Danielle stepped closer, her voice calm but heavy with truth. "Private property. You should be more careful with those words." Camilla took a step back. The guards straightened, sensing heat in the air, but not knowing its source. Across the lawn, Liam's camera caught the moment, Danielle's stillness, Camilla's tremor. The kind of image that said everything without a caption. Then came the words that turned the air to glass. "People like you," Camilla said, low but clear enough for everyone nearby to hear, "think you can just walk in anywhere you please." The sentence landed hard. A few guests gasped. Someone muttered. Did she just say that? Danielle's expression didn't change. Only her eyes, steady, old, full of the quiet weight of 1,000 similar insults. She exhaled once, a sound closer to resolve than breath. Yes, she said. I walk in. Because every door you close I paid to build. The silence that followed wasn't peaceful. It was charged electric. One of the guards lowered his hand from his earpiece. The younger one, Evan, shifted uneasily. Camilla, he said under his breath, maybe we should check her credentials. Do your job, she snapped. I said remove her. Danielle turned her gaze to Evan. Go ahead, she said gently. Just remember every camera here is recording. And when the truth plays back, you'll see which one of us belonged. Evan froze. His reflection wavered in the surface of the fountain beside them. Camilla, now flushed with frustration, tried again to rally the crowd. Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy the ceremony. This disruption will be handled. But the guests didn't move. No one looked away. The attention had shifted entirely from the bride's white lace to the woman in the white dress standing her ground. And in that stillness, something inside the scene cracked, not loudly, not visibly, but completely. The balance of power had begun to turn. The atmosphere was thick now, not with celebration, but with the heavy air that comes before a storm. Every sound seemed too loud, the rustle of silk dresses, the faint buzz of a drone camera hovering above, even the birds quieted as if sensing what came next. Camilla crossed her arms, her tone colder than the champagne chilling nearby. You're wasting everyone's time. Leave before I have you escorted off the property permanently. Danielle's eyes lifted calm and unreadable. You keep saying property like you understand what it means to own something. A low murmur swept through the guests. The phrase permanently had struck nerves too sharp for a wedding, too cruel for this setting. Camilla tried to laugh it off, but her voice cracked halfway. Oh, please stop pretending. You don't belong here. Look at you, you're not even dressed for this level of event. Her words landed like glass shattering against marble. The insult wasn't about fabric. It was about color. Every guest heard it. Every camera caught it. Danielle didn't flinch. She turned slightly, letting the late afternoon light hit her face. You're right, she said quietly. I'm not dressed for your level. I'm dressed for mine. The crowd stirred a few gasps, one slow clap from somewhere near the back that stopped midway, unsure if it was safe. Camilla stepped closer, her perfume sharp, her anger sharper. Security. But Danielle raised a hand, not in command, just in clarity. No need. Let her finish. Camilla blinked, thrown off by the composure. Danielle's voice carried again, soft but unyielding. Go ahead. Say it. What kind of woman do you think I am? Camilla's lips trembled, the sentence on the edge of something irreversible. She hesitated, realizing too late that she had already lost the room. The younger guard, Evan, spoke first. Miss Ward, maybe we should stop. People are filming. Let them, Danielle said. Let them see what respect looks like when it's tested. A woman in a pink dress, one of the guests whispered, I can't believe she's staying so calm. Her friend replied, that's power. That's what it looks like. Camilla's eyes darted toward the phones, the quiet cameras now pointed squarely at her. Panic flickered behind the practiced smile. This is harassment, she said, her voice shaking. Danielle tilted her head slightly. No, she said. This is reflection. You just don't like what you see. And with that, the last sliver of moral ground beneath Camilla vanished. The guests who had been silent now shifted closer not to help but to witness what justice looks like when it refuses to raise its voice. The security guards didn't move again. Liam's camera lens glimmered, catching the moment the exact instant a woman's prejudice turned into her own undoing. Danielle took a slow breath, eyes never leaving Camilla. You called me uninvited, she said softly. Let's see who truly doesn't belong. The garden had stopped pretending to be beautiful. Now it was just honest. Danielle's phone vibrated once in her hand, a silent pulse against her palm. She didn't look down. She already knew who it was. Across the city, her assistant Tasha Green sat in the Brooks Holdings operations suite watching the live feed from the venue's internal cameras. The message on Danielle's screen was short, all systems ready. One command and it goes public. Danielle's thumb brushed over the edge of the phone, but she didn't press anything yet. She wanted them to see themselves first. Camilla was pacing now, her voice cracking under its own volume. Security, do something. Why are you just standing there? Evan met her gaze. His earpiece buzzed faintly with static. Ma'am, I think we should verify who she is before I don't pay you to think. Camilla snapped. The moment she said it, the crowd reacted. A few guests gasped. Others muttered. Her control was slipping faster than her tone could catch it. Danielle finally looked at her phone. Her reflection stared back, composed, quiet, ready. Tasha, she said into the receiver, her voice low but clear, activate site verification. Full access check. From hidden speakers around the property came a soft chime, the same sound used to alert staff when an owner or corporate executive logged into the system. A holographic screen flickered to life on the event's LED monitor, the one meant to show the couple's slideshow. Instead, glowing white letters appeared: Brooks Holdings, Access. Owner login confirmed D. Brooks. The gasp that followed was physical. It rolled through the garden like wind-bending conversation, breaking silence. Camilla blinked, her mouth opening, but no sound coming out. That can't be real. Evan lowered his headset, eyes wide. It's her, he whispered. She's the owner. The guests began to murmur louder now. Someone whispered, I told you I recognized her. She's the one who rebuilt this place. Another said, she owns half the city's luxury venues. Danielle stayed perfectly still, as though the truth itself was speaking on her behalf. Camilla stumbled forward, voice trembling. You could have just said who you were. And would that have changed how you spoke to me? Danielle asked. The question landed heavy, sharp, and painfully honest. I wanted to see how you treat women who can't answer back, Danielle continued. Now everyone can see it too. Camilla's eyes darted to the phones, the cameras, the lenses, catching her every twitch. Panic finally cracked through her veneer of authority. Delete that footage, she barked. Liam's voice came steady from behind the lens. It's live, ma'am. The crowd began to applaud, soft at first, uncertain, then growing like a tide. Danielle finally looked up at the LED screen, its glow reflecting in her eyes. Power, she said quietly, doesn't need permission to arrive. It just reminds you who built the walls you're standing on. Camilla's posture broke. The guards stepped back. The wedding that was supposed to be perfect now had a new story, one that would outlast every photo taken that day. The sound of applause faded into the wind, replaced by the soft hum of disbelief. The white garden that had been built for vows was now a courtroom of its own making, and Danielle Brooks stood at the center, no longer accused, but revealed. Camilla's lips parted, trembling between denial and panic. This must be a mistake. I was told the owner was some man from the board. Danielle didn't move. That's your second mistake today, she said evenly. The first was assuming what ownership looks like. The guests fell silent. Every eye was on her. Every camera still streamed. Danielle stepped forward, each footstep soft on the grass but heavy with meaning. Do you remember what you said to me when I arrived? Camilla's throat tightened. I was just following protocol. Protocol doesn't insult people, Danielle said. People do that. Protocol just gives them an excuse. The LED screen still glowed behind her. Owner login confirmed D. Brooks like a quiet witness that refused to dim. From the crowd, a voice called out, She built this place, didn't she? Danielle turned slightly toward the question, her tone warm but steady. Every arch, every path, every light you see, this was meant to be a space where everyone felt welcome. She looked back to Camilla. But somehow, even in a garden designed for love, prejudice found a seat. A hush blanketed the space. The bride and groom, standing off to the side, exchanged nervous glances, suddenly aware their fairy tale backdrop belonged to someone else entirely. Camilla's mascara streaked faintly under the sunlight. I didn't know who you were. You didn't have to, Danielle replied. Respect shouldn't depend on recognition. The words landed hard. A few guests nodded. One woman in the second row whispered, That part. Liam's camera zoomed in, catching the subtle tremor in Camilla's hands. Danielle turned toward the guards, her voice as calm as if she were giving a boardroom directive. Gentlemen, thank you. You've done your job with restraint. You can stand down now. Evan nodded, immediately grateful. The older guard followed, removing his earpiece. Camilla, desperate, tried to regain control. You can't just humiliate me like this, Danielle's tone didn't rise. You humiliated yourself. I simply gave the world a mirror. Someone clapped, just one person at first, then another and another, until a slow building applause filled the air. Danielle didn't bow, didn't smile. She simply let the moment breathe, the sound washing over her like vindication made tangible. She looked at the camera lens, not with anger, but with purpose. I didn't come here for revenge, she said. I came to remind us all, ownership means more than deeds and documents. It's how you treat what stands on your ground. Then she turned back to Camilla, her gaze quiet but final. And right now, you stand on mine. The last word hit like a gavel. The applause roared. The garden, once a stage for vows, had just witnessed justice delivered in silence. Camilla stood frozen in the center of the lawn, her perfectly tailored dress now clinging awkwardly in the heat. The color had drained from her face. Around her, the guests no longer looked at her with admiration, only discomfort, the kind reserved for someone caught pretending to be in charge. The music had stopped completely. The quartet near the fountain held their bows midair, waiting for a cue that would never come. Even the bride's white veil fluttered nervously, a ghost of what the day was supposed to be. Danielle didn't move closer. She didn't have to. The space between them had already decided who held the power. Tasha Danielle said into her phone, her tone composed. "Lock Camilla Ward's credentials. Effective immediately." A pause. Then Tasha's voice crackled softly through the speaker, confirmed. "Access revoked. System timestamped." The sound of the confirmation tone echoed faintly through the garden's speakers, a single beep that felt like a verdict. Camilla's badge, clipped neatly to her lanyard, blinked red, once then went dark. She looked down at it, blinking in disbelief. What did you just do?" "I did what you told security to do," Danielle replied. "Removed someone who doesn't belong." A ripple of murmurs surged through the guests, the quiet thrill of witnessing karma arrive in real time. Camilla turned in a slow circle, searching for an ally, but the faces that had laughed at her jokes an hour ago now refused to meet her eyes. The same cameras that once captured her orchestrating perfection were now capturing her downfall. Liam whispered from behind his lens, still rolling. Camilla's voice trembled. You can't fire me in front of everyone." "I'm not firing you," Danielle said. "I'm freeing this place from the kind of leadership that hides cruelty behind coordination." The words hung there clean and final. The older security guard leaned toward Evan. "She's done," he murmured. Evan nodded. "Yeah, that's the sound of an ending." Danielle turned toward the audience, her voice calm but firm. "If anyone here felt uncomfortable watching this, remember I did too for years. Until I decided to stop letting comfort excuse injustice." A woman near the front wiped her eyes. Someone else whispered, "That's real power." Camilla took one last step forward, desperate to salvage her authority. "You think you can humiliate me?" Danielle looked at her, not angry, not triumphant, simply resolute. "No, Camilla. You did that when you forgot that leadership begins with grace." The LED screen behind them flickered once more, displaying a single message glowing white against the dusk. "Event status under new management." The crowd gasped softly, half in awe, half in poetic disbelief. Camilla's microphone fell from her trembling hand, the thud echoing like a closing door. And Danielle, the quiet woman in white, stood still among the petals and fading light, not as a guest, not as an intruder, but as the rightful center of the space she built. No one dared to move. The illusion of power had shattered, and what remained was truth standing calm beneath the setting Sunday. For a long moment, no one moved. The only sound was the wind slipping through the floral arch, the same arch Camilla had called hers hours earlier. It now stood as silent witness to its real creator. Danielle lifted her phone again, the screen reflecting the soft orange light of sunset. "Tasha," she said quietly, "send a statement to all event partners. Effective immediately. The Crescent Garden will pause new bookings for review. We don't host celebrations built on humiliation." "A beat." "Understood," Tasha replied. Camilla's head snapped up. "You can't. You'll ruin me." Danielle's eyes softened, but her words didn't. "You did that when you decided appearance meant worth. You built a ceremony for love and filled it with judgment." The guests shifted, the murmurs of support no longer whispers. One man clapped once, then a woman. Then the sound grew not loud but certain applause, like a verdict rendered by collective conscience. Camilla's voice cracked. "I didn't mean you meant every word," Danielle interrupted, calm and final. "Because you've said them before, haven't you? Maybe not to me, but to someone else. Someone without a title to protect them." The silence that followed was heavier than accusation. It was truth filling space. Danielle took a slow step forward until she stood eye to eye with Camilla. "Here's what will happen," she said. "Your contract with Brooks Holdings is terminated. Your staff will be contacted by HR in the morning. You'll be escorted out not by security but by accountability." Camilla's breath stuttered. The words landed like glass breaking, quiet but irreversible. "Please," she whispered, "don't do this in front of them." "In front of them," Danielle repeated softly. "That's exactly where it happened. That's where it ends." Tasha's voice came through again, calm and procedural. "Termination logged. Site access revoked." The guards exchanged glances, then turned toward Camilla, no aggression, only duty. She took a shaky step back. The garden glowing under twilight seemed to shrink around her. One of the bridesmaids whispered, "She's really doing it." Another guest murmured, "About time." Danielle looked around the crowd, her gaze sweeping every face. Not to judge, but to remind. Every person here witnessed a moment that happens every day in smaller rooms, quieter places. But silence only protects those who cause harm. Her voice deepened quiet thunder wrapped in grace. Not today. The final command came simple. Escort Miss Ward off the premises. Ensure she's treated with the respect she refused to show. Evan nodded once, gently guiding Camilla toward the garden gates. No handcuffs, no shouting, just justice done, cleanly, elegantly in daylight. As she passed the guests, Camilla kept her head down. No one reached to comfort her. Danielle exhaled the tension finally releasing from her shoulders. The sky behind her turned the color of copper and honey. What began as humiliation had ended as harmony. And every witness knew they had just seen something larger than a wedding they had seen, a reckoning wrapped in white. The last of the applause faded into the dusk. The air smelled of jasmine and lake water, soft and alive again. The crowd, still stunned, didn't rush to leave. They lingered as if afraid that moving might break the spell of what they'd just witnessed. Danielle stood in the same spot where she had first been told, "You don't belong." The irony felt almost poetic now. The sun had slipped low behind the trees, painting the garden in gold and shadow. In that light, her white dress looked less like defiance and more like peace. She took a slow breath and looked around the arch, the fountain, the walkway, lined with lanterns she'd once chosen herself. Every detail had been meant to represent inclusion, celebration, grace. Somewhere along the way, people like Camilla had forgotten that meaning. A child's voice broke the quiet. "Is she the owner?" The mother beside him nodded. "Yes, baby, she is." Danielle smiled faintly. "It's okay," she said gently, her voice carrying through the evening air. "Let them remember that power doesn't need to shout. It just stands tall when the truth finally lands." Liam lowered his camera, his voice low with awe. "Miss Brooks." That was history. She turned to him, calm and steady. "No, that was correction." Her phone buzzed again, Tasha's final report. "All actions completed. Venue secure. Media requests incoming." Danielle typed a single reply. "Let the footage speak. I don't need to." The bride and groom finally approached, hesitant, unsure if they were intruding on something sacred. "Miss Brooks," the bride said softly, "we didn't know." Danielle nodded. "Most don't. That's why I build places like this, so one day nobody will have to prove they belong inside them." The bride's eyes shimmered. The groom extended his hand, respectful, wordless gratitude. Danielle shook it once, then turned back toward the fountain. The garden lights flickered on, one by one, warm, golden, forgiving. The musicians, unsure, began to play again. This time the melody wasn't canon in D. It was slower, gentler, something closer to reverence. Danielle began to walk toward the gate, the gravel crunching softly beneath her heels. The guests parted quietly, making room for her. No one dared to speak until she passed. At the entrance, she paused and looked back once. The venue stood glowing, reborn under the twilight, the very picture of what dignity could look like when it finally stood its ground. "You called me a trespasser," she said softly, almost to herself. "But I don't need to prove I belong. I designed the belonging." And with that, she stepped through the gate, leaving the garden exactly as she'd found it, beautiful, flawed, and finally honest. Her car door closed with a soft click. The engine hummed. In the distance, applause rose again, smaller this time, but purer. Justice hadn't shouted. It had simply arrived, wearing white beneath the evening sky.